everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon and welcome to our webinar Let's Talk Budgeting for Young Couples. My name is Dawn Cher, aka SG Budget Babe, and today I have with me Mr. Linus Ng, who is the chairperson of his Consumer Education Committee.
Hi.
Right.
Hi, Don. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be here to share with you on what we can mitigate this cost of living concern.
Thank you, Lionel,
Um,
for
now,
making
uh,
the time. So, for those
no,
of
no,
you who are not familiar, CASE stands for the Consumer Association of Singapore, and it is the only consumer association in Singapore which is committed to promoting consumer interests, which is good news for you and I. And today we're here with Linus to discuss how young couples can stretch their dollars amidst the rising cost of living. Linus, would you like to share case standpoint on inflation and the rising cost right now?
before we go further, let me just say that Case understands consumers' concerns and empathizes with them over these rising prices and coming GST hike. Right? So even though it's 1%, we can understand that every 1% counts. Now, due to the cost of living concerns over the last 2 years, Case actually have been actively been doing outreach campaigns, like for example, like this one, to raise consumer awareness on how they can actually stretch their dollars and how to make informed decision when purchasing items. Just like our recent collaboration with SG Budget Baby on an article on how to be a savvy consumer. Now, so you can see on the screen, uh, if you have also some time later, scan the QR code and have a read later as to what we have done and what we can actually do for you as well.
Indeed. So, and that's why Kate have also organized this webinar today to help bring together both of us to talk about the rising cost of living. And more importantly, you want to stay tuned because we will be sharing many tips that you can implement in the coming months and even a year ahead to deal with these rising costs. Okay, so today, let's first look at the headline inflation rate right now. If you have been following the news, you would have noticed that Singapore's annual inflation rate has been steadily rising and it hit 4.7% in October this year. So the headline inflation rate right now stands at 5.1%. And for those of us who have been very used to the low inflation rates in the last decade, this may come as a sudden shock, and you may have felt the impact in your bills as well as your monthly household budget if you have been tracking and seeing that on average the costs have really been going up. What we're hearing on the ground is that for most people, they're saying anywhere from 10% or even 30%. It really depends on the kind of expenses that you are spending as a household. So, how much more you're seeing in your monthly budget may vary because of your choice of expenses. So, at this point, I want to ask Linus a question. Why do you think young families and couples are concerned about the rising cost of living?
Now, this is one group of consumers that we are concerned about. This particularly because, they are just building up their finances. And apart from everyday expenses, it also has a significant impact on big ticket purchases linked to their life's major decisions. Now, for example, you have wedding receptions, you have housing, and for new babies, coming up on the way, you have the child rearing rising over the past years.
Exactly. I can relate because I happen to fall in that group as well. So what we've seen really is in my own circle of friends, right? My fellow mom and dad friends, they've also been sharing their concerns on inflation, how groceries, food prices have gone up. And I think especially for those of us who do eat out quite a bit, we're really feeling the pressure on costs because most eateries who have been affected by rising cost of supplies and labor wages have also had to increase their prices accordingly to adapt and be able to survive and cater to us customers. So in this sense, I will move to how I've been dealing it. So as some of you might know, if you have been following my blog regularly, so I run a blog where I teach and share my tips on personal finance. And one thing, as my moniker suggests, budget babe, I'm very careful with my budget when it comes to it. I always look out for savings and ways on how we can mitigate these costs. So my personal experience was, I think about the midway point through the pandemic, I was already starting to feel the pressure in costs, because what we were seeing is, I noticed my electricity bills were going up. We're on the open electricity market, so it's actually tagged to the floating rate, and the bills were starting to go up. And then after that, some of you who might be on the same might have received a letter from SP saying that the electricity prices are going up. If you don't want to be hit with sudden fluctuations in your bill, you may want to consider a fixed rate. So that was the period, right? But it wasn't just the electricity costs that were going up. We were also seeing, overall, I had this call with my husband, and I was like, how come it feels like our expenses are so much higher, but I haven't really tabulated. And then it was only after really sitting down and checking it, I realized, yes, it's about say 20 to 30% higher now, and everything really just adds up. So let's talk about food, for instance. I'm sure some of you might be with me, like me, and if you have kids, most of us would want to head out to eat, because if we don't have time to cook at home, and sometimes the kids just have so much energy to burn off. Going out is like an adventure for them. So for us, when it comes to food, right? The most of the regular meals for our kids are usually cooked at home. As much as I can, my husband and I also try to eat at home for the meals where we possibly can. So, for instance, I try to have my breakfast and lunch and dinner at home if I don't have to head out. Otherwise, if I'm heading out, then I try to at least have maybe 1 or 2 meals a day at home, because that allows me to control costs, right? The McDonald's breakfast, for instance, costs anywhere between $5 to $7, but when I make a similar sandwich at home, it costs me like under $1 because of the spreads and the bread. So when you're eating out, what I've been doing recently is to really make use of dining vouchers. And here I want to introduce some apps to you guys if you haven't already started using them. Okay, this is not no one sponsoring this webinar now. By the way, this is really just me sharing what I found useful. So in the past, some of you might have already seen this on the blog if you have been following closely. But there are various food saving apps such as Eatigo, Chope, or recently even Grab Dining. And these offers you vouchers and discounts. Now, how Ichigo works is that you can open up the app and you can just book a slot. You see, and you get discounts for anywhere like 20% off to 50% off. And you just book the timing on Ichigo app, and you just head down. You show the staff you're booking with the percentage discount, and you'll get that discount, right? For Chope and Grab Dine In is slightly different. We have to pre-purchase the vouchers, but pre-purchasing these vouchers on Chope or Grab Dine In gives us a better deal than if we were to pay at the merchant directly. So over here, you all can see I actually spotted a pretty good deal at Sakae Sushi. So I went back to Sakae Sushi and I used a Grab Dine-in voucher, and I got if I'm not wrong, it was 20 something percent off. So I also use this for Pasta Mania and a few of the merchants that we frequent, because these can be found on the apps. Now your choice might vary, but if you haven't already tried these apps, you may want to consider downloading them and playing around. I've recommended these because these are free. Okay, we're all like budget conscious here. These are free apps that you can use, and you only incur a cost when you want to buy the discount or when you want to eat at the merchant. So this is one hack that I've used. Another thing, of course, then is to look at if you're spending on snacks and drinks, because what we realize is that snacks and drinks add up really quickly. You may think that, oh, that Liho or Koi bubble tea is only like $4 or $5, but doing it on a regular basis, that cost quickly adds up. Same goes for snacks, right? Many of us are tempted to just buy a $1 snack here, or $2, $3 small little bite here, because we're feeling a little hungry, or we just feel like eating because it looks so good. But that really adds up. And I actually learned this because when I was tracking my expenses diligently previously, I realized that when I was not having my meals at like regular timings or scheduled timings, I got hungry and I would just like, oh, let me just grab a snack first and then I'll settle my meal later. And these costs really added up. It was almost like, half of my entire meal cost for that month. So be careful of these insidious costs if you're eating out. Okay, so that's for food. Linus, do you have any tips on food that you use? How do you and your family deal with rising costs when you eat out?
Well, the thing is that brilliant suggestions. I didn't even know about this so-called the vouchers that is with all these apps. But what we do is that we actually will look at a price kaki, this particular applications later, which I will introduce in the program, which has been downloaded 140,000 times, So yes, in fact, like I say, I mean, they call it DWIT, do whatever it takes, right? So if it works, if you have got, once in a while, yes, it's good to eat at home and cook at home. But once in a while, if you need to have bonding time, family time across different families, for example, and you need to eat out, then eat wisely. In fact, I think what you have just recommended is really very commendable. Very happy to hear that a lot of all these retailers are actually jumping in and helping consumers as well as and also helping themselves lah, of course. So with that in mind, I think it's I will encourage retailers, restaurant and cafes, eateries, to to make use of all these platforms, and to boost their business as well as to give consumers um, to stretch the dollars, the bang on the buck. You see, I think that's a very very good suggestions that you have actually given on food, because after all, food is one of those items that you can't run away from. You got to
Yes.
eat. All right. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah. So I hope you guys will find these apps useful. Now the next thing we're gonna move on to is groceries. Right. So aside from dining out, groceries and household stuff can really add up to quite a bit every month. When you think about your laundry detergent, your milk powder, if you guys do have young kids like me. So here are some tips that we will share. For myself, what I've started to do, and if you have caught my episode on CNA previously, you may have noticed that I talk very strongly about switching to house brands. And this is quite interesting because house brands are no longer as bad as they used to be. I know as a child growing up, and I shared on that episode with CNA, that as a child growing up, right, house brands quality were really bad. Like if you look at cotton buds and cotton pads, for instance, right, they would disintegrate so fast, and a lot of them wouldn't last. So they're really subpar quality for cheaper prices. However, that was like 20 decades. Sorry, not 20 decades, 2 decades ago, right? And the quality in the scene now has really changed. In recent years, a lot of our retailers, the supermarkets, have really worked with more suppliers to bring in great quality house brands to expand their offerings for consumers. So for us as consumers, this is a great chance for us to save money. And I was really curious about how much I could save. So in the beginning, I started making little switches. So for instance, when it came to my baby's detergent, right? So we don't use normal adult detergent because of the sensitivity of our kids' skin. But we all know as parents that baby detergents are so much more expensive than adult detergent for some reason. Okay. So what I started doing is that I saw that Fair Price had a baby detergent and it was cheaper. So I gave it a shot. I just tried one first, right? Because if I try one and my baby gets rashes, then I'm not going to continue. I was concerned about quality. But I tried it and it was good. And my helper feedback to me that, hey, ma'am, this is actually quite good. What brand is this? I'm like, oh, it's a Fair Price homegrown brand. Okay. So then I started trying more. And of course, Fair Price is not the only retailer who have done this. So there are many different house brands, such as Meadows by Giant. There is Guardian house brands as well, and there's also Fair Price and many others. Okay, if you guys step into any Cold Storage, Guardian, or any supermarket, even Sheng Siong are now starting to have some of their own house brands. So I did an experiment. And if you guys followed it on Instagram, you may have seen it where I actually went to load up on a basket of essentials that were normal brands. Again, I'm not talking about super branded. I'm just talking about normal everyday brands that we tend to go for that are usually manufactured by American or US large conglomerate companies like P&G. Okay, so I filled up my basket with the regular go-to brands, and then I filled up another basket with the house brand equivalent. This experiment was done at Giants during their lower prices that launched last campaign, and I found I was expecting actually 30%. Okay, but I found in my bill, as you can see here, I actually spent 46% lesser. So the branded version was almost half more, 50 almost 50% higher than if I go to the house brand equivalent. And this was me really loading up on different varieties all at once. Okay. In reality, most of us would probably make every trip to the supermarket. Maybe we'll get like 10 to 20 items, okay, instead of like 40 or 50 at once. So your variation may vary, but I think it's safe to say that in general, you can save up to 30% Okay, I don't use 46%, I use 30%. Okay, when you switch to house brands, and the quality is good. It's not just the cotton buds or laundry detergent examples that I've quoted. They even have food. Pasta, for instance, is a house brand. And they also have, like, sauces and stuff. So please feel free to check that out and see if that can help with your grocery budget if you have been feeling the pinch. Okay. The other tip I would share is to really make use of platform vouchers when you shop online. So how many of you might buy your groceries, or you might buy things for your house, such as a organization rack or a dish rack to put your plates and stuff like that, right? We buy all these nifty gadgets for our house on a lot of platforms, be it Shopee, Lazada, or Redmart, or Q10. And the thing about these platforms is that as consumers, we need to know these platforms are trying to win market share and get us to shop with them as well. So to entice us to spend on their platform, they are giving really attractive discount vouchers. Shopee, for instance, during the recent 11/11 mega sale, out of all the platform vouchers, right? So on Q10, you can easily get like $30 off, $25 off, $50 off. It all boils down to how much you spend, because the more you spend on a platform, then the bigger voucher you can claim to offset that, right? But on 11/11, Shopee really like amazed all of us because they released a $70 voucher with $500 minimum spend, if I'm not wrong. That's a lot of savings, by the way. So you can bet that I used that, and so did many of my friends. Okay, because the voucher lasted for only a couple of hours, we used that and we went to buy the stuff that were already sitting in our cart. So if you're like me, okay, you can actually add all these non-perishable items such as toiletries and all your skincare stuff onto the platform and add your cart first, and then wait for these sales day and be very strategic about checking out on these sales day with the platform vouchers. Okay, in addition, you may also want to make use of membership programs. So if you have a account with, let's say, the supermarket chain that you are with. So for me, we shop a lot at FairPrice, and we do also go to Sheng Siong and the rest, right? But for FairPrice, it's the most frequent one just because it's the nearest to our house. So we actually have a trust membership to really earn the link points and get more rebates on our spending. And I didn't really track how much rebates we have, but just to share, okay, I had $100 to use by this month. And that was accumulated across the whole year of groceries. Although at each point, sometimes when I pay groceries and it's like less than $10, okay, then I would just like, okay, just deduct from my link point. So some of it has been used up already, but it's safe to say that I've accumulated like maybe 100 plus or $200 of rebates from my grocery shopping while still buying house brands and saving money, by the way. So you can use all of these to help you save more. But of course, one of the most ultimate hack, okay, other than these tips, is to really make sure that you use the right card for each spend. So if you are using credit cards, okay, you can actually get miles or cashback depending on which card and which category of spend you are. So this is where I will share. Many people always like to ask me, "Hey Dawn, since you're budget babe, can you tell me what is the best credit card in Singapore right now?" And let me share you something. There is no such thing as the best credit card because the best credit card for me might be different from what it is for Linus. Because we each have different type of spending habits, right? Linus, I'm sure you wouldn't go to like maybe say facial salons or go for movies as often as I do. Okay, so a card that serves me for this kind of spend is not what serves Linus and for the rest of you. So if you are on any credit cards or you're looking to get a credit card or to switch your credit card stack, okay, here are some great shout outs. These are not sponsored, by the way. Okay, we're not endorsing any of these cards. We're really just giving examples so that you can take this information and start your Google search after this, read the bank website to understand more about the terms and criteria needed to earn these rebates. So for miles, okay, some cards that are great for grocery spend would be the UOB Lady. Right now is giving 6 miles per dollar. Okay, and then otherwise you can get the HSBC Revolution, which is 4 miles per dollar. Dining out, that also covers the HSBC card. And when it's online shopping, I'm sure most of us would already have a great online shopping card. But if you don't already have at least the DBS Women's World, OCBC Titanium, or City Rewards, you might want to start looking at that because these three cards are well known among credit card users for being the highest and most generous earn rates when it comes to online shopping. Okay, and then of course, if you're traveling, there are many credit cards that offer you great spend. So if you were to bring your family overseas, okay, there are cards that can do multi-currency. But just a word of caution, usually when you use the bank conversion rates, they're not as great. Okay, so a better stack to use would potentially be the Amaze card, which is a multi-currency card. Now you're not gonna get anything. Sorry, Amaze card has some exclusions. Okay, so it's not like you're gonna get the actual cards benefits. Let's say if DBS says if you use your DBS card to book or pay for things overseas, then you can get like a free lounge access or something like that. Okay, if there are these kind of criteria, then it may not apply, because what Amaze does is that it converts it for you at their forex rate, and then it charges you as an online spend via that merchant. So the best credit card combination to use for this, if you're really sensitive about pricing and getting the most out of your dollars, would be the Amaze Plus City Rewards card. Okay, unfortunately, the banks also know the game that Amaze is playing. So over the years, many banks have actually excluded Amaze from their earnings. So in the past, I could use like my UOB and my DBS cards to earn miles while getting better forex rate with Amaze. But today that doesn't exist anymore. So the only best stack right now is Amaze plus City Rewards, and this will last for as long as it will until Citibank decides to take that away. Okay. Now for that's for miles, but some of you might not be keen on miles because the when you convert miles into cash vouchers, you may realize sometimes the offers are not that great. Okay, it really depends on what the offer is at that time. So, like for instance, now the DBS Christmas campaign has some really great cash vouchers to miles ratio that you can make use of. But other than the Christmas campaign, the usual earn rate is not fantastic. So, if you're not into the miles earning game, what you can consider is cashback. Cashback is more realistic because what happens is, let's say your credit card bill is $800 this month and you earn $100 of cashback, you only pay $700 for your credit card bill. So it immediately offsets the amount of cash that you need to fork out for your bill. Okay, and if you like that better, then you can consider these different cards that I've listed here. So the Maybank Family and Friends, for instance, give you 8% cashback on your groceries. So you can go to your supermarkets. You can, when you dine out, when you travel on public transport, even or private hires, and also for TV streaming. Okay, so if you have a Netflix subscription, Disney Plus, you can get 8% cashback on what you pay to Netflix and Disney every month. Now, if you are not into to those categories, and you often pay either online or you tap with your phone, then you can consider the UOB Evo, which is 8% cashback as well. Okay, another good card. This used to be quite popular. The CIMB Visa Signature card was very well known in the past because of a 10% cashback on online shopping, groceries, and beauty. And then there's also the BOC Sheng Siong card for those of you who shop only at Sheng Siong. And the good thing about this card is there's no minimum spend. So let's say, okay, many of my friends have this card in their wallet just to pay for like their $300 grocery bill every month, for instance, and they don't use the card for anything else. And that's fine because this card has no minimum spend. Okay, but the rest do. And of course, if you can hit the criteria needed for the Bank of China family card, then you can get up to 10% dining out. So many of these cards and the offers may change from time to time, but these I've only used the base rate, which is non-promotional rates. Okay, so these base rates are great for these cards. Please use this list to start your research. Okay, this is not to encourage you guys to sign up for all of those cards. Please don't. You should keep your credit card lean and make sure you don't overrun your bills. Okay, always pay off on time. But if you are disciplined about paying off, this is a great way to actually save more money on the things that you have to spend on by getting more dollar back for every cent that you spend. Okay, so Linus, is there any favorite card that you tend to use, or are you on the miles or cashback camp?
Well, the thing is that thanks for you took those words out from my mouth initially. I mean, when you talk about, subscribe to only those cards that you use or that meet your needs. Okay, so we at Case over here, we always advocate prudence on a fiscal basis. So check and double check the terms and conditions. Make sure that you actually it fits your description or what you actually need. Then you subscribe. And like what you said, very, very important, pay your bills on time, pay in full so that you won't, incur all these late charges and all this extra penalty, rollover interest that can be quite draconian, especially if I'm not wrong, I think the rollover interest now is 29%, 28% now.
Yes, it's really
So that
high.
is really, really quite bad. I mean, inflation is really 5%. With this on top of inflation, it's going to be quite a handful for those who are not careful with their spendings. I myself, I'm more of a miles person. In fact, because I do travel for work, so that in itself, I do have some of these credit cards. But of course, I like what you say. We're not going to endorse any of these credit cards, but just be careful when when you subscribe to them. Make sure you read the fine prints. Now, one good point,
Exactly.
which I must say, is the adoption of these house brands, which you have mentioned. In fact, when I was studying in London 20 over years ago, we actually use house brands over at the time. Safeway and Tesco's has got fantastic house brands, as good as the normal brands. But that was 20 plus, almost 30 years ago. And with that, we in Singapore, we're actually catching up. So if you, well, don't take our words for it. I mean, if you can, you give it a try at one of our strategic partners, NTUC. And of course, Cold Storage has got the Midos brand, which, like what Don has stated earlier, try. You can try with something small, something palatable, like potato chips, for example. I myself, I buy and I eat a lot of potato chips. Okay, so you can try with those brands first, and then you move on to something else. And of course, I mean, I am quite amazed at how much savings that Dawn has actually done looking at the experiment that she has conducted, 46%. Wow, that's a lot, that's almost half, So I
Hmm.
encourage you to also do this experiment on your own and see how much you can actually save because every cent counts when it comes to it. I mean, now it's going to be a challenging time. It's going to be a challenging year with all these disruptions going on and the wars going on. Things may get a bit worse. So do make sure that you are able to foot the bills and be able to empower yourself to make a more informed decisions.
Yeah, Linus, you bring up a really great point about even the overseas house brands. So I also noticed recently when I was shopping at FairPrice that the overseas Tesco's house brands are now starting to be offered in FairPrice as well. Okay, so we can all support our local homegrown house brands as well. Okay, the quality is really so much better than what I remember as a kid. They've gone up so much. And like what Linus recommended, the potato chips. If you guys know, I won't mention the brand. Okay, but you guys know there's a really famous and delicious truffle potato chips that goes for $6 or $7. It might be $8 now because of inflation at Cold Storage. You can get the same flavor at Meadows, which can also be found in 7-Eleven now, and it only costs $1. So yes, give it a shot. Go and try, and then you'll be convinced that house brand qualities have really gone up, and you might then be more willing to give them a shot. I also want to make another recommendation. I'm very sensitive about the type of rice that I eat. Okay, and I used to really eat. I won't mention names again, but a really famous Thai brand that starts with S. Unfortunately, because of inflation, this sack of rice have really gone up by a lot. Okay, it's scary because I see the price. Like I remember once upon a time it was only what $10. Now it's like 15, $18. And I'm like, what has happened to the price of rice? Okay. And so I gave another brand unknowingly a shot because when I signed up for the trust card when they launched, they gave away a free small sack of at fair price rice. I tried that. And I didn't know I tried, by the way, because just passed it to my helper, right? And I asked her, yeah, you just cook like whatever. So when she cooks, she doesn't tell me like, ma'am, I'm cooking the house brand now. She doesn't say that kind of thing. She'll just serve the food, right? So eating it, I was like, hey, what did you cook today? The rice very nice. I love the texture. It's very fragrant. It's my type of style. And she was like, oh, ma'am, this is the FairPrice brand that you passed me. I was like, oh wow. And ever since I switched out of buying my old Thai brand rice. I only use the fair price one now. So go and try. Okay, so moving on. Now let's go to transport, another category that probably affects many of you. Okay, so for my side, we actually have a car. So not surprising, we try to fuel for cheaper, such as driving into Johor when we can. But when we can't, in Singapore at least, when we have to top up, what we use is local discounts and credit card offers or loyalty programs to get discounts off the refueling. Otherwise, we try to take public transport when my husband needs the car for work. Now, another part of travel is that if you another part of transport is travel. So if you guys are planning to bring your families overseas for holidays, okay, you can use actually various apps such as Klook, Traveloka, and Trip to look out for discounts from time to time. And same as the tip I shared earlier, use this platform vouchers. So they can offer like $50, $100, $200 off your booking. Okay. Look out for all these. And as an example, this was the Klook promos that I saw on 11/11. If you were very strategic about buying your stuff in advance and using these vouchers, you can actually save a lot. Okay, but otherwise, if you're stuck in Singapore, you don't intend to travel, well, what you can do is if you really need to take private hire because you couldn't schedule in advance enough to take public transport, then what you can do is compare prices across the apps. So right now, most of the private hires apps are Grab, Gojek, Zip, by Comfort and Tada. If you can open all four apps because I found that the prices vary because all the demand supply algo controlling the prices, right? So you may get like a $3 cheaper price on a different app, and then you can book on that instead. Okay, so these are some tips when it comes to transport and travel. But this is where I want to pause and turn the spotlight to Linus because Linus, I heard that Case have been very busy on your end. We've heard some news during the pandemic, and you guys have been working on an app that helps consumers like myself even more. Can you share more about the Price Kaki app?
Sure, I'll be happy to. In fact, if you look at the screen, you will see the Price Kaki app that is we have actually done this in 2019. Now, and in case for case, we have actually stepped up efforts, right? So we have published articles, we have done videos, social media posts like what we are doing now, and ads on how we can help consumers stretch their dollars and basically to inculcate smarter shopping habits. Now, Price Kaki itself is a very good example on tapping on platforms. Now, you have earlier mentioned about Shopee and the vouchers. So, yes, you need to plan ahead what you want to buy, put them in the basket, and then wait for the time. For example, like 11/11 and now 12/12 is also coming. But for Price Kaki itself, it's a platform that we can actually do what we call a price comparison. As the name suggests, Kaki is your friend. So if you want to have your friends doing the comparison, Price Kaki is able to give you that kind of platforms. What do? This Price Kaki app actually allows consumers to compare prices at home even before going out in your shopping kind of destination. Now, you may not have heard of it, but it was launched in 2019. Now, with the objectives of making and helping consumers make very informed decisions. Now, what we want to do is that what can Price Kaki do? We search and we compare how many 10,500 products, okay, over 10,500 products, okay, from where? From all the major supermarkets, like what you have mentioned earlier, Sheng Siong, NTUC, we have all that. In fact, we have included grocery items, okay, and on top of that, 75,000 kind of food and beverages, 75,000. Ooh, wow. And across how many? Across 450 locations island-wide. So whether you're up north, down south, or all the way to the east, or in the west and Tuas, for example, we have you covered. All right. So now with this in mind, of course, you now have the power to choose. So you can actually know where to go and eat, where to go and shop, where to buy things, and what you need to do. So suppose you want to buy lunch. You can actually use Price Kaki to compare prices of, let's say, your chicken rice, your fishball noodles, and even your mixed rice, all within a 5 kilometer radius from where you are. So we are not asking you from the east travel to the west in order to save the money, but within your location, you can actually find out and compare prices. Of course, then you ask yourself, so where are all these eateries now? Actually, we cover hawker centers, we cover coffee shops, we even cover food courts. So that's when you have real choices for you to do where you want to eat at the most cost-effective rate. Okay. Now, if you're buying groceries, we have daily essentials, household items like what I've said earlier, Sheng Siong, Giant, Fair Price, and Prime. Okay. And the good news is for those who loves Red Mart by Lazada, we also have them on Price Kaki. Now, we have until today, we have 140,000 downloads already. And I always sincerely believe, I myself, I'm one of those that benefits from Price Kaki. So the app actually also lists current discounts offered on different products and let you filter your search by location. So if you own a car and petrol prices are concerned, we have also moved our fuel pricing into price kaki as well. So for this, you can actually set up what we call push notifications whenever petrol prices changes. So we cover you on transport area. Well, if you have yet to download, download now because it's available where Apple App Store, Google Play, and of course Huawei Gallery as well.
Yes,
So
I
that's a bit
love.
of Koyo on price kaki.
Yes, I just wanted to say, as a consumer myself, thank you so much for actually investing resources into building this. I do work in tech, so I know there's a lot of money that people don't see. They have to get invested to create an app and to really make it work. And there's so much partnerships. Know that you guys have been working on the back end, because in order to get all these supermarkets like Fair Price, Cold Storage, and the rest all on board, you have to go and have those talks with the merchants, convince them, and then have to make sure it's updated as well. So Case is doing that all on their end, and they've invested significant resources to build this to help us. So go and download the app if you haven't already done so. It will really help you, especially if you're hoping to spend less for lunch, or to spend less on your grocery basket and you don't know which supermarket you should be going to in your house radius right now. The other thing to also add is that I understand, Linus, that there are plans to gamify the app and launch like vouchers, right? So that we can complete quests, help to update the app with promos that we see, and then get rewarded for our efforts, and we can potentially then convert these to offset with $5 vouchers here and there. So is that still on the plan?
Yes, in fact, like I say, the best is yet to come. So akan datang, watch this, download it, and use it actively. Let's put it this way. You have got nothing to lose. The download is free anyway. So go and look at it, and then at the same time, once you compare prices, tell all your friends and families about this price kaki app, and make it on your front page, for example, such that you're able to just on a tap, you know exactly where to eat, where to buy, where to go, to get the best deals. That's what
Mhm.
we are advocating.
Exactly. So go and check that out. Okay, so aside from these, what else is Case doing to help consumers? You have actually been talking to all these merchants as well, right? Can you share a little bit more on the back end efforts?
Now, the thing is that we have actually engaged all these major supermarkets and retailers to do their part to help consumers and during this very challenging period. Recently, you may have heard of FairPrice absorbing GST for 500 essential items. Now, I think this is a very, very good initiative. I must say we commend FairPrice, which is one of our strategic partners, for doing their part, and we encourage more businesses, if you can, do your part as well as to help consumers ease this impact on rising costs of living, because it makes very good business sense if you offer good stuff. Singaporeans, will all love cheap, cheap, cheap stuff. So give them this alternative, and then they will come to you. Now, of course, like what we have stated earlier, the house brands. Now, that's something that we feel is something that is just the mindset that consumers needs to overcome. Because, like I say, I mean, we never have had a tradition of using house brands, but you can start, and you can follow examples of many of those developed countries whereby they have house brands, which, according to our price kaki data, the house brand can cost 10 to 25% cheaper at least than regular brand goods. So if the quality is as good, and if you feel that you need to save that kind of funds, I think this is something that you should consider for house brands as well.
Yes, exactly. So we hope that these tips will help you guys. Please remember to reiterate, go and download apps like Price Kaki, and go and download any of the other apps that we have shared earlier on to help you guys with your budgeting and to save some money here and there. Don't underestimate, because every few dollars saved here, there, and all really adds up when you look at your whole basket of items across the month. Okay, so now moving on, I'll talk very quickly about childcare, because as a parent myself, I'm sure some of you guys tuning in might also have young children that you're taking care of. So you might feel sandwiched, right? Because there's a lot of costs when it comes to rearing kids. So just to share some tips on what I've done, the what I focus on for the kids really is the largest, like, not non-negotiable kind of stuff, which is mainly your preschool fees. Okay, so we just have to tong the first few years, right? Because once they go to primary school, then the government subsidy is so much cheaper. It's just a few dollars. Okay, but the preschool side is not cheap. So what I've done is, because this is the monthly fee that needs to be paid every month, I actually went to go and compare prices, go and look at the curriculum, go and explore a lot of things. You can read my whole blog article. It's a really long piece because I did a really in-depth research. I used to teach myself, so I care a lot about the quality of education that my kid is receiving. So what I focus on is that I went for one that was actually much more affordable. In the end, my ultimate choices came down to two. Okay, both locations were quite near to me, but one was twice the price of the other school. And at that point, we only had one kid, but we knew that hey, we were planning to have at least two kids. So if we go for the more expensive one first, okay, that will also be times two when the next kid came. And my second kid, Titi, actually came along 3 years later. So I'm very thankful now that we made that conscious decision to go with our second option, which now actually we're huge fans of it. We rave about it because not only is it more affordable, the teachers are so great to my kids and they have really thrived under their care. So if you are thinking of how to save money on childcare, I urge you go and look at the biggest item first, which is the childcare fees. Okay, so the government is great because I am so thankful for the working mom subsidy that I get every month. So I really glad that as a Singaporean, the government helps us out in this way. But you must also note that the subsidy is also based on what the school charges. So go and look. Okay. Now, if it comes to enrichment, one tip I'll share is don't FOMO. There's really no need to send your kid for everything. Okay, so if you can spare the time, one way to save money is to just teach the kid yourself. Okay, but honestly, as a parent, what I've heard from parents with older kids, their advice to me, okay, is that just spend a lot of quality time with your kids. These mean a lot more to them than sending them here and there for like piano class, ballet class, or swimming class. Every class out there would let them try. Don't really need. There's nothing wrong though if you want to expose your kids to different activities to try and find out what their interests or talents may lie in. But you must also note that doing so comes at a cost. And if that cost is not something you can afford right now in this era of inflation and rising costs, it is really okay because your kid will still love you, will still be happy, will still thrive nonetheless. So we can spend more time with them and only choose like strategic education or enrichment classes that you think will truly benefit your kid. For me, I only just send them to one childcare, one enrichment, and we only recently started on swimming lessons, and that's it. Everything else we decided not to go for because when we look at the cost and the time needed to send them to the class also, it's a lot of effort and a lot of resources. So that's the biggest tip I can give for childcare. And now we'll also move to how rising cost of living have affected major life decisions like wedding, housing, and all. All these have risen over the past year as well. Linus, what are your thoughts?
No, the thing is that I agree with you. In fact, we have heard of anecdotal evidence that young couples are actually deferring marriages. Some even doing smaller receptions, since wedding banquets costs and venue costs has gone up significantly. Now, in fact, when you move on in life, you go on to the next stage. You need to stabilize your finance before even getting ready for child expenses. Now, a lot of times you got to, of course, couples weigh their priorities, and then they're thinking, should I have a child first or buy a property? And what kind of stress you're going to have. To put things in perspective, you also face with challenges like job securities, in this kind of situation. So a lot of people will now look towards the government for support. And yes, the government has come up with government assistance and supports, all these support schemes. Now, for young couples, of course, generally, I think you have heard of this many times, the government support like enhanced baby bonus schemes, okay, that will actually try to mitigate the cost of raising a child. But if you have not heard of it, also they have also increased the amount of baby bonus cash gift. Now, this is when the parents can really receive sustained support all the way till the child enters primary school. Of course, we have a preschool subsidies and you have the MOE financial scheme. Now, I'm quite sure that Dawn, you have, like what you have said, you have benefited from some of this and you are familiar with some of these schemes.
Definitely. In fact, I compiled it to share, and I'm really thankful that as a Singaporean we have all of this support because what I've gotten from the government is that for my first kid, right? I actually got $18,000 from the government. So I'll break that down. 18,000 is a lot, right? Let me break it down. For my first kid, I got $8,000 baby bonus cash gift. Then the government gave 3,000 CDA first step grant. And because I used that cash gift to top up the CDA to get the maximum government co-matching. At that time, it was only 3,000. Now it's more. So you are better in a better state than me now. Okay. So I topped that up to the max. And then there was also the MediSave grant for newborn. So in total, I got $18,000 from the government. Yeah, which I think is fantastic because the cost of raising a kid is really, really not cheap. For my second kid, he was born during the pandemic, so we got an additional boost with the COVID-19 baby support grant. So there was a $3,000 more. So in total, I like to tell my kids, right? Hey, Titi is more rich than Koko. Because not just because Titi was born at a time where the government gave more money. Again, same thing. We put in everything into their account, and as you all know, the Singapore government, how the schemes work is that if you have more kids, then you get more bonuses, as you can see from this chart, right? So the co-matching for the second kid, you can see back then during my time was 6,000. Your now is 7,000. So it's really even better now. Okay, so my second kid got 6,000 co-matching. My first kid only got 3,000. If you're having a kid now, that's 4,000 and 7,000 respectively. But even though mine was born earlier and not as much as what the government is giving now, in total, my second kid still got 24,000. I think that's not bad at all. 18,000 for first kid and 24,000 for the second kid. Now, of course, my stance, my husband and I, we don't want to use this money. Okay, we want to put it for the kids and use it to kickstart their funds, and let them grow and compound over time. So you can actually use your CDA account, the child development account, which will come to an is there a slide? No. Okay, I think we didn't prepare a slide for this, but basically, if you no, I think that yes, there is a slide for this. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so the CDA account right now, these are the current rates. Okay, it's not like sky high, but the key thing is look at the bottom. Whereby if you actually compound over time and you leave the CDA untouched, if you're in a position where you can don't use the CDA money for the school fees or medical fees because you can still handle that now, okay, you can actually just let it compound as we do and earn this interest for your kid every year. And we're trying to keep that up as long as we can because we want to use this for two purposes. Number one, really to let money grow money, but also number two, to show our kid the importance of saving and not eating into their emergency funds. So this is the lesson that we're hoping to carry on and pass on to our kids. But of course, if you're in a position where you do need to use your CDA funds, please go ahead and do so. Okay, because being able to pay is the most important. And if that's the case, the government will then, I would say, make use of the co-matching. If you can take the baby bonus amount and put it straight into the CDA to match and get that 4,000 and $7,000 respectively. I used to have many parents tell me, hey, budget pay, but then, right, how am I going to get the $4,000 and $7,000 to put in to get that next amount in the first place? Actually, the answer lies in the baby bonus. If you plan your finances properly, so that you if you don't have a lot of funds, then don't go to a private gynae or private hospital to give birth. If you go to a public hospital to give birth, your bill is very, very low. Okay, especially with our hospitalization subsidies. So if you do that, don't use the baby bonus to pay for your delivery fee. You can actually then really use that entire sum to put into your kids CDA account and get the extra 4,000 or $7,000. This will go a long way to help you to offset costs. Okay, so there's some tips, and now we'll move on to the future government outlook. So we're gonna have the FY 2024 budget coming up, and the government has started opening up feedback channels for consumers like you and I to start giving them tips and inputs on what we would like to see in next year's budget. Linus, what are some measures or initiatives that you think could be announced to help families with rising costs, or what do you hope to see?
Well, the thing is that one of the things that we have noticed is, of course, with the government has always been very responsive, and they have actually come out with they will come out with quite a fair bit of things. Our DPM has of course come up with certain things in his red briefcase. Last time it used to be red, now it's a different color now. But anyway, so there will be schemes coming out, and they have been very responsive. Especially, they have taken note of a lot of comments from the conversation that and the dialogues that have had in together with a lot of all these residents, and yeah, the people on the ground. Now, if you look at, it's just it's a mentality issue that we will have to and tell consumers, because this is what we call is a co-help thingy. So don't just rely on the government, but be able to empower yourself to be able to make use of the schemes which the government is offering you. So be happy, and at the same time be forward looking, like what Dawn has done. Plan, and advance plan. All right, what you can do and what are some of the things that you can well say. Okay. Now, what we of course from the research that we have done, MAS has actually also mentioned that 2024 will likely be a year of growth and renewal. Now, what we want to tell young couples and young Singaporeans is that yes, you may need more support to available to make yourself, embark on and you want to go on your growth, you want to grow on things, but 71% of Singapore's respondents actually worry about rising inflation. Now, this is something that is going to stay for some time. And then, of course, you have got a 64% in this survey says that they fret about increased household expenses. Now, that we can understand in the survey by UOB why consumers are like that, but that doesn't mean that you're helpless. A lot of things you can actually do to help yourself. Small things you don't have to think of, like buy big ticket effect items, factoring in like housing, having children, but smaller things like grocery shopping, eating out, transport, for example. All these are small decisions that can make a big impact. So with that in mind, like I said, the government, don't worry, the Singhu will always try to take care of you. In fact, like I said, I'm not at liberty to discuss what some of this that they have looked at, but I would want to say that have faith. They have actually looked at all round, all right, initiatives taken to help you in all ways, all right. But the mindset must always even though the government is helping you, you must always help yourself. So advanced planning as a consumer is very, very important, because no one can control your life, only you can.
I fully agree. I myself have benefited from a lot from these government support schemes. And I hope to see more in the coming year, without increasing our tax burden too much, hopefully. But on my side, I think I'm hoping to see initiatives to help parents deal with the cost of healthcare for kids, especially because now when your kids keep falling sick due to COVID or the flu virus, each visit to the doctor can be quite a bit. And for many parents, we don't have the luxury of time to sit at the polyclinic to wait for hours with a crying, cranky kid with us. So most of us, our default would be to go to a family doctor where the wait times are slightly lesser. So having some initiatives to help with the healthcare costs there would be helpful. And of course, more time, paid time off. Work to take care of our children, because as parents with multiple young kids may attest, every time a kid falls sick, that's easily 3 days if their immunity is strong, if not easily another 5 days out of school. And it can be very hard to work when our kids are sick, because they need a lot of attention and love from us. So these are some initiatives that we hope we'll be seeing. Lion, before we come to an end, and if you guys have any questions, you can put into the comments chat box. If not, then we will just move on. But before we end off, Linus, is there any last notes that you want to for consumers on how they can deal with the cost of living?
Actually, I just thank you, Don, for having us. Now, the thing is that one of the things that I also encourage consumers to do is that you have the power. How much you want to spend, how much you want to save is all up to you. So just think of yourself like the Zhenghu, whereby if you want to spend on something, you must have the reserve. Look at how Dawn has actually done her financing and her finances, and look at how the arrangements, what are the things that you can actually do. A lot of times, like I say earlier, you have the control and be empowered. So be smart, be wise, read widely, find out more, compare prices, and of course, go into the various blogs and websites like what Don has kindly done. So these are some of the things that you can actually do. You can help yourself really. And a lot of times, the government has taken into consideration what well and will continue to take into consideration what the ground wants. In fact, what Don has suggested, some of these initiatives, they are actually seriously looking into it as well as a continuing package. They have already carried this out, and this has actually been done earlier already. So watch the policies for fine tuning and get more goodies out of it. But in the meantime, you can always help yourself. Be a well informed consumer. You have the power.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So thanks for sharing, Linus. We hope you guys have found this useful. And this live, I know some of you guys couldn't tune in during lunch hour because you're at work, but this live will be available for replay on our Facebook channels after this. So please like, share, and share them with your friends to help with the tips. So to sum it up, we'll be putting here some of the resources that you can refer to help you stretch your dollar further. Okay, when it looks at you can look for this resource, scan the QR code to download this, and you can also watch how you can inculcate smarter habits with Price Kaki, and don't forget to download the Price Kaki app. And then in the meantime, there are also many other resources that can be found on the Case website, as well as Case have done all these educational articles and pieces with publishers, not just like myself, but even with the national media and other press media. So you can go and read for all of these tips to really help you stretch your dollar further and be a savvy consumer even while we adapt to rising prices. And with that, we'll end this live. Thank you so much, Lionel, for taking your time off and sharing these tips with us. And thank you everyone for tuning
Thank
in.
you, Don. Thank you, Don. And I
Thank
hope,
you.
yes, see you. Thanks.